Today on Thirsty Coconut, we're diving into Trevor's journey that led him into a world that most of us only glimpse in moments of crisis, but one that runs 24/7 behind the scenes, often unnoticed. Our guest Trevor is a seasoned paramedic who's served people in Victoria right here in Australia for over 20 years. From high pressure emergency calls to late nights, Trevor has seen the best and the worst of humanity, and through it all, he stayed committed to helping people in their most vulnerable moments. Beyond the ambulance, he's also passionate about inspiring the next generation and speaking at universities about paramedics as a vocation. So we have Trevor here. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me, mate.
It's so good to have you. I want to deep dive into your career as a paramedic, but before we do that, I want to talk about take you a step back and talk to you about, once you'd graduated high school, had you gone out into the field or had you studied to become a paramedic, all those sorts of things. So perhaps maybe we can start, Trev, with what had you done after school, like after you'd graduated high school?
Yeah, I can definitely talk about that because I take it back to my dad to start with because Dad never went to university and there's a number of reasons why he didn't.
Yeah.
But then I think he just said but this is going back to 1992 when I graduated to 1993 was the first year out of high school.
Yeah.
He said, no, all the kids are going to uni, right? And I
Wow.
liked to do things with my hands.
Mm-hmm.
And I was using tools and power saws and drills and everything. And I thought, I wouldn't mind being a carpenter or a chippy. And Dad goes, no, you can be better than that, which I disagree with now because I think being a tradesman's a great vocation.
Right.
And, they're really good people and they have been there for generations and they'll be there for generations again still too.
Yes.
But he just said, no, you got to go to uni. And so I kind of didn't really know. And we looked at construction management and building and things like that. And that was what I liked to do, building. But he goes, all right, well, pretty much we got to go to uni. And I said, all
Wow.
right, no worries. Okay, well, I'll put in for construction management, I think at RMIT and then building at Geelong.
Okay.
And where the numbers fell in the end was just building at Geelong, which actually worked out really well because then I started to live down at Torquay.
Okay.
So I then was really good to actually leave my friend group for the week, during the week. That was really good actually.
Yes.
Then it forced me to then have friends or make friends outside
Yes.
of the friends that I'd had for a long time at high school.
Yeah.
And then being at uni, and I kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was good. But then back in that day, it's very different to uni now because I've got a son, Floyd, who goes to uni.
Yes.
And it's completely different to when I went because I went there and we would have like Spider Bait or Magic Dirt playing at lunchtime at the university.
Yes.
And we'd be there.
It's not like that these days, is it?
No, we'd be there 5 days of the week.
Yeah.
And we'd be, having a beer at at lunchtime watching Spider Bait.
Wow.
And that was just that. And we'd be then friends with people that are doing commerce or whatever because
Right.
you just meet them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, it was a really great experience then.
Yes.
And so I said to Dad, look, I don't do building now, obviously, but I said I really enjoyed it and it was probably good to have
On
some
reflection.
direction
Yeah.
and reflection of it. Yeah. Because the 3 kids that he's got, none of them do what they first did when they got out of high school, mate.
Yes.
The first university degree, they don't work in the field anymore.
Yeah, right. That's interesting. You say Torquay, right? So you got the opportunity to go out to Torquay, in that direction. For those that are outside of Australia, say, around the world, Torquay is a holiday destination,
is,
right?
yes.
That's where the surfies are. And is that what you
Beach,
did? Yeah.
Yes, it's where the Bells Beach Surf Pro is, and
Yes.
it is, and it was completely that lifestyle.
Right.
It was so we rented a house right in smack bang in the heart of Torquay. So we'd get up in the mornings at 6. We'd go and check the surf.
Yep.
We'd put on the wetsuits and go out and surf, and then go to uni.
Amazing.
Then come back, and I played drums at that point, and so I had a couple of mates I was living with that played guitar. We weren't very good, but we had a bit of fun trying to make some music as well. So it was just great to experience that.
Yeah.
And it was obviously the first time I've been out of home and
Yes.
everything like that. So it was a fantastic time, yeah.
Yeah. And so when your dad said you're going to uni, you'd gone to uni, you loved the whole time being there, made some new friends. Were there any times that you found difficult beyond the beers and the surfing and the You know what I mean? Like learning all the people. Were there any challenges that you experienced around the actual studying and the work itself?
Um, the main thing I think was group study was hard
Yeah.
because trying to
Mm.
organise young men in particular, because it was a construction management course, so it
Mm.
was predominantly male,
Yeah.
and so trying to organise, 18 and 19-year-old males to get together to do work was hard.
Right.
Was intrinsically self-motivated myself to then do the work that
Yeah.
when you had to do it as an individual. And I'm a very practical person, so just
Mm.
setting out steps and then going, I'm only going to need that much time to do that. Well, no worries, and I'll do it.
Yeah.
But then trying to organise, young males is difficult.
Different story.
Yeah, and I would be leading that because I'd be wanting to do it. And that goes back again to my dad about, not failing and wanting to make sure you pass and
Right.
everything like that. So I would be then directing the group or trying to direct the group.
Yes.
And then what would manifest from that though is that I probably would do majority of the work.
That's
So that was probably the
it's a bit of a
biggest
raw deal, but it's
challenge, yeah.
yeah.
But then you go, well, all
Kinda
right, if
worked
that's
out
the
for you.
situation, if I do the work, no worries, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And still have that lifestyle while I'm doing that work as well and manage both, mate. It was good. So, but that was a pretty it's not a very difficult challenge, but that was probably the biggest challenge I
Yeah.
faced. Yeah.
Right. And how many years were you there?
I was
What
there for
what
4
was your
years. It was a
Oh,
4-year
wow,
degree.
4 years.
Yeah.
What did you end up with?
A Bachelor of Building, it's
A
called.
Bachelor of Building. I wonder if
Yeah.
that's the case these days. I mean, do you know if those in the construction come out with that sort of thing? Because I know people tend to go into VCal if they're going to carpentry or a specific
Yeah.
trade through high school.
I should explain what the course was, I suppose. So the course is about how I explained it to most people.
Yeah.
Was it's about running the job from the office though. So
Ah.
it's no hands-on stuff with tools or anything like
Yes.
that. So you end up coming out maybe as a project administrator, which was the
Yes.
first job that I did. Then you'll move up to a project manager, and that is the
Right.
person that oversees the whole budget, oversees the whole planning,
Yeah.
scheduling, contracts, progress claims, and things like that. So the
Yep.
whole kind of administration part of the job
Yeah.
is what I was learning to do.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
see. And it was that something that was starting to resonate with you while you were at uni, and then you kind of thought, actually, I'm going to take this in to my career as part of my career? Was that
There was some
your
practical.
thinking?
What I enjoyed the first year, there was practical parts of it. So one fantastic thing is we made this house, or even this house of the life, kind of a 1 to 10, I think it was, or something scale through balsa wood, and that's how you
Yeah.
put like your studs and noggins and lintels
Yes.
and everything like that. And I loved it because it
Yeah.
was using your hands again. I think
Mm.
I like to use my hands, and then in the office, other than a keyboard and a pen, you're
True.
not using your hands.
Yes.
And so I really enjoyed the practical parts that came in first year. And then that got less though towards second, third and fourth year,
Right.
Third year was a bit of going out into the industry as well. So I think we were like part-time for that full year, but going out to the industry to do some work and everything like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
Definitely a field that you would recommend, I imagine.
Well, what I learned very quickly in my job is that I'm not cut out for it. No.
Right.
Because
Tell us
paramedic
tell
work
us why.
and
Yes.
building work people go, that's completely
Chalk and
different.
cheese.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'll explain where it's not. But in building, it is just very cutthroat. It's about money, which it obviously is, because people are in the business to make money and
Yes.
everything like that. And it wasn't my money that I was spending or saving or leaking or whatever, but it was my boss's. But, it would always come back to me, telling me he's not getting paid. Yeah, that's not worth that.
Yeah.
And I just been arguing about money, and I just go, I don't like arguing about money.
Right.
And that is now too, because if something comes up and what about, I just go, I don't want to argue about that. I'll pay extra.
Gotcha. So uni life was good,
Yeah.
but the course,
The course
maybe
was,
not
The
necessarily,
course was
yeah.
good. I enjoyed the course too, I suppose, but I think that came with the socialising with it though as well.
Yeah.
And the whole
Kind of
lifestyle
helped.
being at Torquay helped, definitely. And then getting into work, into the field, it was nice to then do something that you had studied. I definitely think that was valuable and everything like that.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, about 12 months in or about 18 months in, I'm going,
Not
I
for
don't
me.
like, I don't
Right.
know. It is, and anyone who does commercial building will know it's a game,
Is it?
Oh, it is. And there's some people that play the game really well.
Yes.
And maybe, your conscience is, maybe they can cut off a little bit of their conscience to
Yeah.
go on, because sitting opposite someone and telling them, no, you're not getting paid much.
Yes.
Some
Yeah.
people can just do that.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that because I'd be
Yeah.
looking at that person.
That's the cutthroat part you were talking about,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And it is. And so, yeah, some people are
Super
cut out
interesting.
for it and some people are like me, are not.
Yeah. And so when you say the game, you really have to turn on a certain type of persona when
Yeah.
you're working in the field, right? So
Yeah.
you have to be a bit of I guess, almost apathetic to people's situations in a way.
Oh, maybe, I don't know. I think maybe it's a bit the opposite where you can cut yourself off and you just look at that person when you see them
Yeah.
physically there, that's just a business, all right? Or that's just
Correct.
a person and they're just a part of that business.
Yes.
And then not think about their life outside of that. And, because people would
Yes.
say to you, oh, you're killing me, mate. I've got overdraft with the bank and, how am I meant to then go and, spend time with the family and do this? And they would say that. And I'd be like, yeah, that's true. How's he going to do that?
Yeah.
And I think of that part rather than,
Yes.
the
Yes.
the technicality of saying, well, you're not getting paid or money wise. It was very conflicting.
Yes. And I imagine as a young man, if you hadn't had a family or you hadn't been married or you hadn't gone through life's, sort of debts and challenges, you
Yeah.
wouldn't really understand what people are going through at that point, would you?
No. And I definitely didn't have the emotional intelligence then to work out people and understand people and
Yeah.
situations because even people that are good at building can manipulate other people through just conversations and everything
Yeah.
like that. And, they're very good at it.
Yes.
And, and then you'll just have people that were, just, I don't know, maybe a little bit more empathetic. But it's not as I said, it's not my money, not my business. So you're
Yes.
a step up away from that.
Yes.
If you're up in that upper level, that is
Different story.
Yeah.
So 18 months later, you decided actually not for me. What did you then do beyond that? Did you have to go back and speak to your dad?
No, I haven't.
You were on your
I
own.
haven't got any advice from Dad since actually.
Right.
Since he told me you got to go to uni and
you
got
checked that box off. That was
and you got to pass and get a degree and then you'll be set for
okay.
life.
So
That's
you did
what his
that. That
view
was your rite of passage to then
Yeah.
go forth.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I was with my now wife for probably about 3 years then, and we were obviously just boyfriend and girlfriend then. And
Yep.
I then said that I've got to go overseas and travel. I think I haven't really
Oh,
travelled
wow.
all that much. I've done a little bit here and there.
Yes.
And I said, and she said, well, all right, where do you want to go? And I said, I want to go to Canada. She goes, oh, okay, I can come to Canada. And I said, no, I want to go alone. And she was really accepting of it, actually. She
Ah.
was great about it.
Yes.
And I'd say this to my boys that
yes.
any male should really just go overseas by themselves.
Yeah.
That's
Go
what I
out and
think.
discover.
Yeah, by themselves
explore.
to start with. Yeah, because males,
Tell me about that. Yeah.
well,
What's
males, like footy clubs, cricket clubs, which was me. I was in footy clubs and cricket clubs.
Yeah.
And that's that. And this is back in the 90s again. They're different now. But that's about a drinking culture and males and,
I don't
bonding
know. I think
and
it's still
everything
the same,
like that.
Trev.
Well,
Maybe
they're
not
a little
as-
bit different, the ones I know of anyway.
Okay.
But there is a bit of that going on still.
Yes.
But, you get comfortable. And so being comfortable as a male around other males is just how it is, And then I just said, I've got to go and take myself out of this safe environment that I'm in.
And how old were you by then?
I was 25 then.
25? Okay.
Which I
That's-
know you kind of mature then because the
Yeah.
insurance people don't get it wrong. Your excess goes down when
Yeah.
you're 25. And I reckon that's when males clicks a little bit with them.
Or start to.
They
Yes.
start to just go, oh, yeah, all right, what am I going to do? And, yeah. So then I took myself out of these comfortable environments that we were in, which were footy clubs or cricket clubs, or then going to nightclubs and then just doing the same type of thing, going to work, but then on the weekends you'd go out and get pissed and do all that.
Yeah.
And it was starting to wear a little bit. And so I then just said, I'm going to Canada. I'm going to do a ski season at Whistler. That's what the aim was then.
Why Canada?
It was because we had a working visa with Canada. Australians,
yes.
and so we could then just go over to Whistler.
Yeah.
We could get the work permit. I had to still get the job, so I didn't have anything. And it was just, and then because I'd been with Candy for 3 years by then, I didn't really know if I loved her. I don't think but many males know at that stage either. I'd ever had my dad telling me what love is. He didn't really know himself, I don't think. So I then go, all right, well, I don't know if I really love her or not. I think this might help.
Yes.
And so all I did was had 2 nights accommodations booked.
Yep.
That was it. Packed the bags, 2 nights accommodation, and then went over.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was really, and it was easily the best thing I've ever done in my life for sure.
And so you suggest that for young men who are, in their early to mid 20s or whatever, it's important to go out and see the world or just go and discover something or explore something for yourself. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Like, what are some of the benefits that you saw for yourself as a result of doing that? What did you find?
Well, I know it was just in a foreign environment too, though. Yeah. And so even
open your eyes out to
even managing your money, even getting the bus, even how to plan. Now, we didn't have phones back then, so it was a little bit harder to plan things, but you've got to plan things. And all you had was this Lonely Planet book to look through things. So you're looking through things to then, and it's all foreign. So you're uncomfortable. It's how you deal with adversity when this happens. So you miss the bus or the bus doesn't come on Sundays or whatever.
Yes.
And you then go, how am I going to deal with these? Because most of the environments that were in here for me was safe. You knew footy. You were good at footy, so you got rewarded for being good at footy or cricket or whatever, and you're comfortable. People wanted to see you, so it's all about that, just being comfortable and thinking you're the man or whatever. But when you go to somewhere foreign and no one knows you, then you're just a nobody.
Yes.
So it's how you deal with that too.
It almost gives you a sense of grounding as well, doesn't it? You sort of feel grounded because, like you said, you're an unknown person in a foreign place. And you've got to traverse and navigate your way around daily life and actually understand how do you then, sort of navigate independence to a degree. Obviously, you don't have to deal with all the bills and so on. Well, maybe. Yeah. But that in itself is a huge learning curve for anyone who hasn't, dealt with that before. It might be that some people are still living at home at that age, and it's just important to just get out and find somewhere to go.
It doesn't matter. It can be in Australia too. It doesn't have to be overseas.
Right.
But I think taking yourself out of your comfortable environments and putting yourself into something that is new, that can be difficult, that's challenging. Yeah. And I remember the first night was horrendous because it was like, I'm questioning myself whether I've made the right decision.
Oh, why was that?
What happens? Because you just think, what happens if you run out of money?
Oh, so
what happens if you don't get a job?
Right.
What happens if
you overthought it? You started worrying about.
Yeah. But that's
it's actually a good place to be in a worry, isn't it?
Well, you got it. That's about dealing with this adversity and the challenges, mate. So you have to deal with them. So
love that.
The way I dealt with it was I go, this is silly, Trevor. You came over here to have these experiences, and you've got to have the experience. And so I looked up in the Lonely Planet and I've gone, what is something that I wouldn't do in Australia? Right. I've got to get myself out of this kind of fuzz that was happening, maybe a bit of jet lag, but it was the fuzz of just being a new thing. I'm looking at it and then I see it exactly at Vancouver has a nudist beach. And I said, that's what I have to do.
I love it.
So I went to the nudist beach and it's funny because everyone goes, it's a whole metaphorical thing of stripping off and everything like that.
Yeah. What was that like for you?
Oh, it's nerve-wracking because, I've never done that, obviously.
Yes.
And,
had you done what the Romans had done there on the beach?
Yeah, we did all that. And it's quite natural. Like there's a bloke who was walking around with an esky, and he's got you want a beer, mate? Yeah, I have a beer and there's another bloke with some sandwiches. And there was
hilarious.
Probably more blokes than women there, but it was it was just lovely to do it because you're there. And
felt liberating, no doubt.
It is, because they don't know who I am. Then you go, mate, they don't even know who you are. What does it matter?
And you may never see these people again either.
I didn't see them again, no, because I only went there once.
Right.
And, it was then after that, and it's kind of like, silly, but it is like taking your clothes off means you're getting rid of all your excess baggage and everything
Yes.
and your worries.
Yeah.
Which sounds cliche, but it did.
Hmm.
And then it's like after that, you're there just having a beer and a sandwich in the nude with others, and you go,
Yes.
yeah, life will be fine.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so how long were you in Canada in the end?
8 months I was
Oh,
in
wow.
Canada.
That's quite some time. I imagine Candy would have missed you and wondered why you were on a naked beach.
That's very funny because she did know that I went to this nudist beach and she was a little bit concerned. And then I said to her, I didn't know if we'd broken up or not, but I'd obviously gone away and I knew I was going to be away for about 8 months
Yeah.
in Canada. She said she'll go to England and then we'll meet up. And that was the plan. And it was a very loose plan anyway, what would happen.
Yes.
But you know, the I suppose the other beauty of that, within about 3 days of being just in Canada by myself, I realised I loved her. So that was what was great as well. And
It's a love story
it is
without the love
that.
around you.
Yeah, and she wasn't around, but that's what I said.
I love
Any
that.
male that's confused about that too,
Yes.
I'd recommend again, take yourself out of the environment that is comfortable around you and familiar around you. Go and do something that you're just unfamiliar with or challenges you or is just about you with no one else around you, and you'll just get clarity on your thoughts.
I
That's
love that.
what I would recommend. And
You're like-
that's what works for me anyway.
It's like hitting the reset or a clear your head button and just going in there and doing something completely different out of your usual day to day. I love that. That's so awesome. So 8 months later, you came home, or did you go to another?
No, we went on to England. So we were
Destination?
about 2 years in travelling. And I'd recommend that was maybe easier in the 90s too, or 2000s. It was in the early 2000s
Okay,
then I think
wow.
we were. And which is probably a bit more easier. It was a bit less expensive. And, you know,
Yeah.
you worked and then you kind of spent the money that you worked.
Yes.
And we never saved any money, I think, for about a couple of years, but that was all right because the experiences then, and then I got engaged to Candy and, you know, then we travelled together and everything like that.
Amazing.
And it was fantastic. So
Yes.
I'd recommend that too.
Trevor,
to
you
people.
still, so that was, so you'd left the kind of the construction industry as a project manager or coordinator, what have you, worked overseas for a couple of years in the end, or maybe just under 3.
Yeah,
I wonder.
it's about 2, yeah, 2
About
and a
2
bit.
years.
Yep.
And then you decided you were going to, you know, maybe settle down and, and
Well, yeah, it's interesting because my friend, who is now my brother-in-law, he came over when we were in Canada, and he wanted to
Right.
come ski with us,
Ah.
and he'd just got into the paramedics. And
Really?
he goes, and so obviously I was doing the lifting in Canada.
Ah,
And then in England, I was just doing maintenance work because I kind of half
Okay.
idea how things went together and painting and decorating and maintenance for these couple of
Yes.
landlords, which was a very cruisy job as well.
right.
So I'm just doing that. But in Canada, he said, I've got into the paramedic. Oh, right. What's that? You know, what's
Yeah.
that like? You know, and he started talking about it. And that was the first time I ever just even thought about it. And so I just
Yes.
go, oh, right. Okay.
Yep.
And then, you know, we spent 2 years, which was great, and we had to come back home, and but 2 years was long enough too.
Yeah.
And then, we didn't have any money when
Yeah.
we came home, and I don't know if it's good or bad. So I got home on a Wednesday, and I knew that the building guys that I'd worked with went to the pub on Fridays.
Very
So I
good.
got home on the Wednesday. I surprised them on the Friday and
Okay.
went to the pub.
Yep.
Oh, how you going? Good, mate, you know. And then on the Monday, so 4 days later, I was back to working my old job
Oh, wow.
without an interview and without anything like that. Like
That's-
they had a fair bit of work going on.
Yeah.
I suppose it worked well because I had no money. I needed to
Yeah.
go and get a job pretty quickly and
Yeah.
actually helped me settle in really well though too because
Okay.
2 years traveling and
into
then
a
coming
routine.
back.
Yeah.
So 4 days later, you're just like
Amazing.
bang. But then maybe 2 months later,
You
you're
were
still
done
in the
with it.
same office and you've gone, you left this for a reason,
I
mate.
know.
And you go, yeah, I know. What am I doing back here?
Yeah.
And
Well, I
I-
guess you had to double check.
Well, maybe. Another advice, double check to make sure you don't want to do the degree that you've done.
Absolutely,
But that
make
was
sure.
fine. Yeah, and so
What'd
2
you do
months
then?
later.
Were you thinking about that conversation you had with your mate in
Well,
Canada?
when I got back, I certainly started talking to him about it. And then, you know, and what also happened, this is quite funny too, is my brother got engaged to a
Okay.
paramedic.
Wow.
So there's three of us in the family.
Cracks, it was in the water for you,
Yeah,
wasn't
so
it?
maybe it was meant to be. So,
Yeah.
actually, Lou's been in the paramedics the longest. I think she's about 25 years, 26 years,
I
which is my
see.
brother's wife. Mick, who really got me into it, he's
Okay.
been in probably about 24 years. So we've
That's
been in a long
amazing.
time. But he started talking about it, and I just started thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then there was certainly one pivotal time, which was my brother's wedding, and it was at Lawn.
Yes.
And we were surfing still, and so we went out for a surf. And along Lawn, the Great Ocean Road is a very windy road on cliffs in
Yes.
Australia, and it's a very popular
Beautiful
road.
destination as
It is.
well. Super popular.
Yeah, lots of cars go on it, lots of motorbikes go on it,
everything.
caravans and
All
everything.
the holidays. Yeah.
Because it's so windy, the motorbike people love it because they can do corners and turns.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're driving back from the surf, and then we just see this bloke with his helmet on in the middle of the road, right? And his bike is against the cliff and it's kind of smashed and everything. And the guy is walking around, right? And kind of Mick jumps out straight away, and I'm behind him. And we see this guy, and you can see his helmet's, crushed in there. And now I didn't have the knowledge at the time, but he definitely had a head injury, right?
Yeah.
And you could just see him, and then Mick controlled it really well and did a great job with that. And I'm watching him do it, and it kind of then switched and go, mate, this would be awesome to do as a job, I
Really?
think.
Wow.
And so we
What
got
was that? What was that? You watched him, and what was it about watching Mick go to work, do what he knew what to do? What was it that sort of made you switch that,
Mick is a great teacher. And so Mick then,
Ah.
because I think he knew that he was talking to me about it. And so he would say, Trevor, I need to do this or I need to do that. So him putting me into that situation.
Right, because you got involved in your hand. Yeah.
So even trying to get the helmet off someone, right, that's had a motorbike injury is difficult
There's a way
to
to
do. And
do
you've
it.
got to try and do it
Yeah.
properly and things like that as well. So he's explaining that, and you're thinking, wow, in this situation, there's people around you that that he's managing with things and everything like that. And that was definitely the switch of helping and practically doing things
Yes.
with him that goes, hang on, I think I might like this and I think I might be okay at it.
But also maybe you felt, shit, I'm actually doing something to save someone's life here, and I'm feeling like I can help people. Maybe did that play a part in it as well?
100% it did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's a very unique job to care for people.
Yeah.
In lots of jobs they care for people, and that's even in nursing homes and things like that.
Yes.
But being a paramedic is certainly taking care
Yeah.
of someone and helping someone is easily the best thing about the job.
Yeah, first
Yeah.
responder, that's such an important career to have. So what did you do after that situation then? I mean, you hadn't quit your other job, had you?
No. The way we got into the paramedics in the olden days, as we call it, is it's
more
like an
official these days,
apprenticeship.
isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's like an apprenticeship. It's quite a hard application process. So there's an
Okay.
aptitude test, which Mick helped me on, and I think Mick maybe helped me pass that aptitude test anyway,
Right.
because he's got a great
Credit to
memory.
Mick.
Yeah, and he told me kind of what it was like. 'Cause you
Right.
can't just come in and do these tests because it's still got like a little bit of Pythagoras theorem in it and
Oh,
a little bit of
wow.
maths, a little bit of English.
Did you do any of that in high school?
I studied it. Yeah, I
Okay.
was quite lucky. And with high school back in those days, I was lucky. It was taught one way, and I understood that one
Oh.
way that it was taught. And I've always thought later on that it's hard for people that just don't learn that one way.
Yes.
Now I really like how they actually go, all right, how do you think you can learn this, or how would you like to learn
Yeah,
this? And
yeah.
maths is a great example of that, because they've got a
Yes.
number of ways to do problems, whereas back in the 90s it was this is the way.
Yes.
And if you didn't understand that
Yes.
way, then bad luck.
It's such an underrated topic, subject, mathematics, isn't it? I mean, I know it's what generally gets us into uni, but generally people, and sorry to move off topic here, but I do
Yeah.
think generally mathematics is one of those topics that helps you in everyday life, actually, whether it's problem solving or critical thinking or thinking about something logically. Mathematics can do that for you. And this is something that applied to you in the
No, it
field?
definitely did. Like I'm a practical person, so maths is for me a practical thing, and it's easy to work out, and they kind of numbers relate. But I've always thought of someone, and you can work out a problem many of different ways, you know.
Yes.
Someone might be better at even drawing something or other, and then even they'll work that out from doing a drawing or
Yeah.
something or other.
Yeah.
Or they'll watch someone else's, what I've learned too, they'll watch someone else do it and they'll go, yeah, I probably would have done it a little bit different. I would have done it like this, you know. And
Yes.
then that's how they learn.
Yes.
And it's just different ways to learn.
Yes.
So I can understand how, and that's my advice too, high school can be really difficult, you know,
Yes.
because it is back in the day taught one way and that's it. And if you don't
Yeah.
understand it, then, you know,
Yeah.
they didn't really give you an opportunity to
That's
go,
right.
so how do you think you would look at that
No,
problem then?
That's right.
And ask them
There was
about
only
it.
one way to learn and one way to
Yeah,
get the output. Yeah.
yeah.
And so you saw all of that. You were still working in the construction industry.
Yep.
You then knew that you had to apply. It was a lengthy application process, which your mate Mick, well, actually your best friend, one of your good friends, helped you with.
Yep.
Then what happened beyond that?
So then I got through to the aptitude test, and you know, with the aptitude test, it's you know, the people that are really really smart, all right. Sometimes,
Okay.
so the people, what they'll do is they went back and interviewed then the people that would be 100 to 90, right?
Yes.
The really smart people.
Yep.
And you know, with paramedics and or first responder or healthcare workers, you need a little bit of you know, socializing skills, people skills, and everything like that. I find that if you're that in smart, sometimes you have a bit less people skills. That's what I've found anyway.
EQ?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they might take a few from that that are really intelligent. Then from about 90 to 80, they'll interview them as well, and they'll take a few more. But they normally get most of the paramedics from about 80 to 70.
Yeah,
So you
okay.
don't have to be
Yeah.
super, super smart,
Yeah.
intelligent,
Do you think
right?
they've struck the right balance there?
I think that's about the balance to having
EQ and IQ?
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm not up with, yeah, IQ and EQ, yeah.
Yes.
Emotional quotient, is that right?
Correct.
Yes, all right, I got to get those right. But it is a balance of that with
Yes.
being a paramedic, and that's about the right spot,
Yeah,
I think.
okay.
And that's about where I was. And so
Oh, perfect.
then they interview you, and this is where I think that, yeah, work ethic, preparation is vitally important.
Okay.
And so we did definitely did a mock interview. So that was with Mick and Lou, you know, asking questions. We were in like this, we tried to make it an environment where it was like an interview. So, and Mick had said to me, these are probably the questions they're going to ask you.
Right.
And there are a certain amount of questions that they'll ask you in regards to paramedicine.
Even today.
It'll be about problem solving, communication, also like motivation of why you want to do something or other, and kind of like building relationships or something like that. Now, prioritizing and problem solving are probably two together the same, but they are
Yes.
vitally important.
Hand in hand.
Now, and that's where I come back to building. You are problem solving and prioritizing all the time in building
Transitional
too.
skills you brought into the.
And so they go, give us an example when you had to prioritize something or
Yes.
problem solve. And I could go, bang, I could give them 100 of them, you
Yeah.
know, with the plumber and the electrician and running their services and bits
Mm-hmm.
and pieces like that. And so practicing that though, then I don't mean to be a smart ass, but because I'd practiced so much, I did ace the interview.
Oh,
like
of
I knew the
course.
questions that were about to kind of come and what they were like. I had my examples all prepared. So another bit is the preparation definitely helped me get that job.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I was lucky enough to get in.
So it was a combination of your transition, the skills that you'd already obtained from your previous employer, those skills transitioning into your new, but it was also a bit of the, I guess, understanding what those situational questions might be when you're going into an interview. So was it sort of tell me about a situation when you did this and when you did that in order to prepare for the interview? And then obviously there's that bit around, did they actually ask you about technical experience? Because you wouldn't have had any.
No, but
was
that's
more
the beauty of like, once you got in and you were selected, it was like an apprenticeship. Now,
Yeah.
apprenticeship is the
Oh,
best
I
way I find to do anything. So that's
Yeah.
I'm now going through my apprenticeship, which I wanted to go
Yes.
through as the chippy all those years ago that my
Yes.
dad prevented me from doing. But what happens is once you're selected, you go to school for 3 months.
Right.
So then they teach you.
I see.
So
was
that's the
it-
beauty of it. And then after 3 months, and it's kind of like basic, obviously, what
Yeah.
you learn, you then go out on the
The
road.
fundamentals.
Yeah, and you go out onto the road for 6 months or whatever. So you're 3 months in school, I think. Then you go out on the road for 6 months and you practice those skills.
Yeah. What was that experience like for you, Trev, going out on the road?
Yeah, it was pretty nerve-wracking to take. It is nerve-wracking, certainly, because you then just can really get your name out. I'm Trev. I'm from Ambulance Victoria. What's the problem? That's what
Yes.
that was for the
You're
first
on-
2
that's
months.
it,
That's
you're
all I
on,
did
right?
is I just do that line. G'day, it's Trev from the ambulance service. What's the problem? That just happened to like set and all right, I'm ready to go. Then I'd completely, because we had this clinical approach that you're meant to do,
Yes.
and it would just melt away most of the time, and you go, what do I got to do? I don't know what I got to do.
Yes.
Of course, when you're learning, that's what happens.
Of course.
But, the best thing about paramedicine too is that not every job is life and death. That's rubbish. No way. It's probably only about maybe 1 out of 19 jobs that you might think you really have to act right then and there.
Here in Australia.
Yeah, here in Australia, I think most places anyway, unless you're going
Would you say that might be the case worldwide? Maybe.
I don't know. I
therefore?
would have thought so. But who knows? It's about what people, how they respect the health service here or the paramedics and the ambulance service. What do you feel is necessary to call an ambulance for? And that's not for me to say. That's for people to make up their minds, and
But
we'll
it
come and
happens,
assess.
doesn't it?
But yeah, you'll find that there's low acuity people, and that can be from anything. That can be from bulk billing drying up here now, so it's harder to see a doctor. It can take a day or 2 days to see a doctor, and these people, they might be at home by themselves.
Yes.
So they can't have someone to go, oh, hang on, I've got this. What do you think?
Yeah.
It might be, well, I'm scared. I'm anxious.
Yes.
And so at least the ambulance service is there for everybody to use, and so they should.
And so, Trev, you're now on the field. It was a good segue for me to ask you, what does actually a typical day on the road look like? I mean, I know you're probably not on the road these days as much, but what was that like for you? Typically, what was your day?
So the typical day for a day shift starts at 7 in the morning.
Yeah.
So you'll get there. We used to get there about 6:30 because you'd try and get in a little bit early to help the night shift who have done their 14-hour shifts. So hopefully if
Bit
there
of
is a late
changeover?
job, well, they finished at 7, but we'd always get in earlier so that you just help them out. And they wouldn't want a job at 6:30 because you go, that's going to take me over my already
Their finish time.
lengthy 14-hour shift.
Oh, wow.
So you'd come in early and then you just start to check the truck because you wanted to make sure you knew where your equipment was, the equipment was there. You would test the equipment, such as the cardiac monitor and everything like that, and that would then just ease you into it. So it started routines and it started practices and systems and everything like that. Started the brain going, yep, I'm at work.
Yeah.
Yep. And so then you'd check through that, and if you get a job, you get a job. And now we've got computer screens in the ambulances that kind of alarm goes off and the computer screen comes up and tells us about the job and gives us information, everything like that.
Yes.
And the beauty is it can be anything.
Yes.
And it can be short of breath, chest pain, back pain, abdo pain.
Never a dull moment.
No, which is really good. And that's what I love about it, I think, is the dynamic kind of environment that it has.
Yeah, yeah.
It can be mental health. It can be lots of different things. So then you jump in the car, whether lights and sirens, you get over that pretty quickly about driving lights and sirens, I feel anyway, yeah. It doesn't get you that far other than in traffic. It can get you a little bit further in traffic. If there's not that much traffic, it doesn't get you that far.
Right.
So, yeah, it's not – that adrenaline rush will wear off after probably about a year or two, I found anyway.
Oh, a year or two? Gosh, that was pretty quick for you.
Well, it is, yeah. Anyway, I don't think that it gets that
It's not
much.
the heart of the job, is it? The heart of the job is actually being there on the job and actually doing what you're trained to do.
Yeah, it's interesting because one of our key performance indicators for Ambulance Victoria is response times, and it's historically been about response times, which I don't think is a very good measure of an ambulance service, but they are changing that now because we have KPIs for pain, stroke, heart attacks and things like that now too. So it's about an overall
Quality of
care and how the actual service is going. So that's a lot better. But I do understand that people in their time of crisis would like an ambulance to turn up relatively quickly.
Yes, yes, I see. And so just with that actually, it's a difficult job to sustain, isn't it? Or is it? Is it like how do you unwind or how do you manage through, sort of the emotional toll and, the varying shifts that you've got to deal with and all that sort of stuff? What do you do to kind of maintain or sustain your resiliency?
At the start, it would be maybe talking to Candy would probably be the main person
Yeah.
that I would talk to about it.
Yes.
You would talk to your partner about it too. You debrief certain jobs. We found in the day, sometimes we call them a hot debrief, which is straight after it, wasn't always beneficial. So now it's like when you're ready to have a debrief, come and talk to us and we'll talk about the job.
Yeah.
So I think we've learned a bit from that. So not doing so many hot debriefs because that can re-traumatise and,
Yes.
everything like that. Even
Right.
colder debriefs, I don't know what the old ones are called, but the newer ones of having the debrief a little bit later on can still re-traumatise people and things like that. But I used to then deal with a lot about, okay, how did I go once I got there?
Right.
And that's a little bit
You
about...
looked at it more of objectively rather than necessarily the
Yeah, because,
the emotional side of having to deal with that
the
situation.
thing about how I deal with it is I can't do anything about that situation that's happened. And
Yes.
I turn up and that's just unfortunate that it's happened.
Yes.
But I can't do anything
Out of your
about it
control.
except from that point now. So from the point that when I get there,
How did you execute on the
I can
on the
then help
response?
out. And so what I can do to help out is how I deal with it. And I go, okay, I think I did a good job then. And then I try to, if there have been a little bit of emotions involved, I try to forget about it relatively quickly. That's what
Yes.
I try to, which, may be good, bad, I'm not sure, but that
Yeah.
has helped me a lot to then just shut it off a little bit. I don't like hanging around at scene. I like to try and just move away if it is a traumatic one and people start turning up. That's what I don't like is when you
Yes.
see people's outpouring of grief and things like that. Sometimes we're shielded a little bit from that because we get everyone out of the room and then we just
Yeah.
do the job that we have to do. Then if we can just pack it up and then go, that's the best scenario.
Yeah. I think it's important, isn't it, to be able to sort of switch yourself off as soon as you can, because ultimately it's a job you've got to do, right? You've got to look at it as a job. Yes, there's a lot of quality involved in your care and ensuring that you're helping people, but that's what you need to be prepared for, situation after situation after situation, and you've got to be able to sustain yourself for years on end because. I imagine you are one of our better paramedics, or they're all great, going from a great to greater.
You're assuming.
Well, I imagine. I mean, I don't think you're in over 20 years of this career if you're not that good. I think, and I think, in order to, keep people like yourself in the field, there is that ability to be able to switch off and kind of find ways for how you, get ready for the next one. Would that be correct to say?
Yeah, and that can come from just having things outside. I do like being a paramedic, certainly, but it gives me a lifestyle, and I
Yeah.
love the lifestyle. And we were talking about golf,
Yes.
and we're talking about things outside of
Yes.
paramedicine, and it is much more important to me to have that
Yep.
than being known as a paramedic. Because I think
Yes.
some people get known for their job, and I don't really want to know that or be that.
Yes.
Because sometimes I feel, and this is important to me, sometimes I feel it's a bit over-glorified though, being a paramedic.
Okay.
We do certainly a unique job and things like that.
Mm.
But really, we are a government employee.
Mm-hmm.
We're employed by the government to turn up to people and help them out. And
Yeah.
that's pretty much as simple as it is. Yes,
Yes.
there's a bit more sometimes. But as I said, I think around about 19 out of those 20 jobs that I go to, most of the time I go, "G'day, it's Trev from the ambulance service. What's the problem?" They'll go, "Oh, I've got a bit of pain here," right? They're talking to you. And so you can then just casually have a conversation with this person and assess them quite
Yeah.
easily. You're in a relaxed manner, everything
Yes.
like that. I remember watching, a few episodes of, what was the Australian show that it was on? Like, I don't
We'll
know. It was
defer
about
to
the,
our crew over there. Do
Yeah.
you remember?
no, the hospital show, but it had a paramedics. RPA, or
RPA,
maybe All, was
ER,
it All
or-
Saints or something or other?
Oh, All
anyway,
Saints, yeah.
Yeah, the drama of it. Like the paramedics would turn up And at the
Oh, it's
start of
not
the
like on
episode,
TV?
no, and then all of a sudden there's 5 people strewn across the highway and everything
Right.
like that. And this was like these people, turning up every day to that. And I said, if you did those jobs all the time, you wouldn't even last 5 years.
Right.
So
That was the next question I was going to ask
Yeah.
you is what's the misunderstanding that the public aren't aware of, about the paramedic field? I mean, you don't have to reveal any
no,
secrets or anything like that, but
no, well, that's what I do think that when and I saw the ambulance show, the New South Wales ambulance show the other day too. Now, I know that most people do it because they love caring for people, and they were saying, I love saving lives, right?
Okay.
I think that for me, saving a life or actually having an impact on a life, we have more impact. And that's what I'd like to say. Saving lives,
Interesting.
that's when they're in cardiac arrest, and you're pumping on their
Right.
chest and everything like that. You are trying to save them,
Yes.
certainly. And with strokes, with airway treatments and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. There are certainly ways that we save lives for sure, 100%. And that's even more so in MICA because that's obviously another skill set of a year study, airway medication, advanced life support, advanced airway support, fusion
Right.
pumps and everything like this and they do have much more of an impact on lives for sure in
Yes.
saving lives.
Right.
ALS paramedics like myself have an impact on just people's lives in general. And so that's the biggest
could you almost liken
difference.
it to, say, a GP versus a specialist, if you like?
100%. That's a very good analogy because generally we get lots of different things, but they're not, acutely unwell that we
Right.
have to dive in straight away to then prevent them from deteriorating further.
I see.
19 out of those 20 jobs, they'll be on a couch like this, or funnily enough, they'll ring an ambulance and go, okay, I'm going to try and look sicker, so I'll go to bed.
Wow.
You go to bed and you'll see them, they'll be in
Gosh.
bed and you go, I wonder why they're in bed. That's because I've just called an ambulance and I'm going to be looked as if I'm sicker if I'm in bed.
Oh, that's crazy.
But that's something that we just have a bit of a laugh at though anyway.
Wow.
But they might be in bed or on a couch like this and we're just having a chat like this.
Is that something that perhaps maybe we need to look at some reforms around? Because I tell you, it's resources, it's valuable resources going to people that are not as urgent as others. I don't know. I mean,
Well,
it
this is
sounds
the whole-
controversial, I know, but
No, but then this is the whole thing. The Ambulance Victoria certainly are looking at this as well about that. But there's circumstances I talked to before, but someone might be alone. Someone be
Right.
low socioeconomical, and then, they haven't got any bulk billing doctor. There is
Understand.
so many facets to this that, but I will say
so
that
interesting.
if you are acutely unwell in Victoria, and certainly in Melbourne anyway, because it's where most of our population are and most of the ambulance services are that are quite close. If you are acutely unwell in stroke, heart attack, something like that, you will get an ambulance reasonably quickly and you will get world-class hospital pre-hospital care
Yeah.
from paramedics. It definitely will.
Oh, I love that.
That's great. But that's not really the bulk of what we do.
Yeah. That's gosh, that warms my heart when I hear those words, world-class care. I
We're
mean,
up
it
there
does make
actually
you
with
feel-
getting people back in
Yes, tell me.
resuscitation. We are.
Okay.
So we do what's called VACAR. So a VACAR is the Victorian Ambulance Cardiac Arrest Registry, I think it is. So
Okay.
all the cardiac arrests go up to there. We send them off in the cloud and everything like that.
Yes.
And we're assessed on how we do our resuscitation. I'm pretty sure that other than Seattle, that we're second in the world for
Is
getting
that
people
right?
to hospital with a pulse.
Oh, Victoria, just when you thought you were losing me through the government and other things, we have Trevor who's made my year. I think that's amazing. And I imagine that that's something you're super proud of and you hang your hat on those sorts of metrics and to be proud of being second in the world or maybe equal in the world to Seattle, you're saying?
Well, what's really good, it's very nice to work for an organisation that repeatedly tries to look at itself to get better.
Right.
And I've seen that through the 22 years of my service and especially the way you started 22 years ago. We started just pumping on a person's chest. I think it was around about 60 a minute,
Wow.
And then they've realised through research that's too slow. We need to go at 100 a minute.
Gosh.
Right? And then we started to look at that we were doing, I think it was like, 15 compressions, 2 breaths. You know, we started, I think that was the old school. They go, nah, you're doing too many breaths, so more compressions. So it's changed once, but everyone says it changes all the time. But it's changed once. And now we do 30 compressions and 2 breaths. So a lot more compressions. And then what we say now is we try to limit the hands off chest time, which when we go back to ages ago, we used to go roll them on their side, clear their airway, you know.
Too slow?
Yeah, get back.
Straight into the heart of it.
5 quick rescue breaths, right? While all this time his heart's not beating properly. You know, so the blood's not getting circulated around the body enough. And they realise, hang on, that's just taking too long. So now it's like I'd really encourage people to just give it a go. You know, it's really easy to do CPR and good CPR.
You don't need to be in the gym for that, do you?
No. Well, it is very strenuous. It is very strenuous to do very good CPR though.
Yes.
It is. And so now it's all about just pumping on their chest.
Right.
Get the defibrillator, put the defibrillator on, give it a go. It tells you what to do.
Yeah.
And so our bystander CPR is improving every year as well. So people are feeling more confident to do CPR. And that's definitely having an impact on people's lives.
Yes. And so the organisation constantly assesses and reassesses their methods and, you know, what tends to work, cut through all the unnecessary things that we've been doing in the past, and ultimately, it's about getting people back to, you know, what they were doing in every day.
Correct, though. That's what it's about too. So we do get assessed on getting people back to hospital with a pulse because that's pre-hospital work. But there's lots of other factors, whether they actually come out of hospital, walk out of hospital is another thing, and then are they back to their daily function from it. So, but I definitely know, and there's lots of stories about defibrillators, and defibrillators definitely work.
Yeah.
They've saved, you know, probably more lives than, you know, maybe me. The defibrillators are what save lives. So the earlier that you get a defibrillator on and you defibrillate someone, their chances is like they goes up like this, or their chances are here, you know, with minutes going along here. And if you get a defibrillator on, you've probably got like, I don't know, 70% more chances of survival.
Wow.
You know, within those first 5 or 6 minutes compared to 12 minutes, you know. At 10 minutes, it'll start to drop off like that about your survival rate.
That's such amazing insight, and also statistics on how good the organisation is worldwide in comparison to the world. It's fantastic. I do have a question for you as well, going into kind of your time in paramedics. What has your career taught you about life and humanity and yourself in general?
It taught me that I have a very fortunate life. I have very fortunate upbringing, very fortunate to have opportunities, everything like that, because you'll see, and I only grew up in a working class environment, but my parents gave me
everything
a roof,
you needed.
warmth, food, water, care, gave me all that.
Yes.
And there's lots of people and lots of young kids that don't have that.
Wow, you see that in the field.
Yeah, that's probably some of the harder stuff that you see. Now, you can talk about the trauma and the car accident or whatever. You know, what I find more is a social or even an environment that a person can live in or be in, and that can include social isolation, mental health, drug addiction, alcoholism, everything like that.
Just when you thought your travels had opened your eyes up, you decided to go into paramedics, and that opened just basically exploded your brain, and sort of.
Yeah, because having that blessed upbringing of just having all that, you just don't know that people don't have that. And then you realise and you go, oh my God, really?
Yeah.
And, you know, that might be two parents smoking in the house, and the kid's got asthma, right?
Yes.
And you go to this kid that's short of breath, and you go, you know why this kid's short of breath? Because
do you ever get answers? Do you ever ask and get answers?
Then you realise that these people don't watch shows, or they are what do I say? Like they are health illiterate, right? And they just haven't been.
They're in their shells. They don't.
Yeah, and maybe they're low socioeconomical, and they haven't been given the right education, or the right opportunities. I've got to be really careful, because maybe there's opportunities though too. So maybe these parents that are smoking in the house, their parents smoked in the house.
Of course.
So it can come down from generations.
Generational, yeah.
And so you just then have to go, okay, well, I need to intervene here and tell them that you can't smoke in the house.
Yes.
You need to go outside. If you want to smoke, you shouldn't smoke anyway. But if you're going to smoke, you need to go outside because your kid has got asthma because you're smoking inside the house.
Gosh, you're also counselling while you're at it.
Well, that's what we counsel a lot. I think social things are what we do more so than medical sometimes.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because what you think is common sense is not necessarily the case across the board, is it?
No.
People don't think the same way we do, do they?
I'll talk to Candy about it and she'll go, don't forget, you've been educated in this. And you go, yeah, that's a very good point. Because I'm going, I know what asthma is, but those people that are smoking don't understand what asthma is.
Right.
So, yeah, you have to take a step back. But the thing that has given me the most is just a lot more EQ for sure.
Yes.
And so, and one example is that I lost it a little bit for mental health patients. Definitely, I think maybe, I don't know, 15 years in, you've done a lot of mental health patients. I've had no mental health problems because of all my upbringing. You know, all upbringing is perfect. House, warmth, you know, everything given to me.
Stability.
Yeah, everything like that. And
you were met on Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
That's true, mate. And so I did a job and it was very poorly done because I just remember going, I just got to get this person in the ambulance and just get them to hospital, right? And they were having a mental health crisis and I didn't care. And it was really poorly done. I didn't give them any other options. And my partner was really good and said, mate, I think you did that very poorly. Did you really engage much with them? Did you offer them other alternatives? Did you? I go, no, I really didn't.
Right.
And so I then, from that though.
How old were you then? Like how many years into your career were you by that point?
Probably, I don't know, maybe
15 years?
15, something like that, I think. And so, yeah, you
even
probably
after
got
15 years, you're still getting feedback and you're still not, you know what I mean? Like you're not perfect. Yeah.
No, and that can be hard because that comes back to, you know, I think that males certainly have egos. And so I probably had an ego then being 15 years in, you know, probably, I don't know if I was in the team manager role then, but, you know, you've been in 15 and there is a bit of a ranking system in paramedics, how many years you've been in or whatever your number is and things like that.
Well, it's just like any other workforce.
Yeah. And so, you know, but it was fantastic that this person gave me a recheck and said, hang on, I think you could have been better. And, you know, Candy taught me how to be reflective. Keep mentioning her a lot, but she was instrumental in being able to teach me as a male to reflect and understand my ego.
Yes.
And so from that, I then reflected and go, I didn't do that very well. And I've got mental health patient fatigue. That's what I definitely had. But that was the 15-year build-up.
Yes.
And so, but what I then did was I did a 6-month online course, which was a certificate in mental health. And that was the best thing that I've ever done too.
And why was that?
Because it then just made me go through, went through like childhood trauma and the effects of that. And that then made me realise, you go, oh my God, I had everything. I had sport, I was popular because I was good at sport and everything like that, right? I had all that. And I go, oh my God, no wonder I've succeeded reasonably well. Yeah.
So you spent 6 months self-reflecting.
Probably, yeah. And then you realise that some people don't have that.
Yes.
And so then you go, oh my God. Then you just start to develop empathy and sympathy for them and compassion for them. And then you start to realise, you go, okay, after that, most mental health patients that I would go to see, I'd be like, all right, they've got some sort of a trauma or something's happened in their lives and I need to be respectful of it. I need to be compassionate for them and I need to give them the best care that they can have. And it changed me a lot and now I'm much better at handling mental health patients now because I've had that little bit of extra training in it. And most paramedics get limited kind of training, I feel, in mental health, and it's a very difficult part of the job to understand, but it's a very big part of the job though too, and it's an increasing in the 22 years. Yes, that's easily the biggest increase that we've had is people with mental health issues.
Yeah, so I was just thinking about the statistics of those that you addressed. Would you say mental health is right up there at the top now these days?
Yeah, it would be often. And that's why some people can get, you know, we get people that talk to me, you know, it must be difficult with junkies and things like that. And I don't like that word at all because
why is that?
I think it just labels, and that's what they talk about with mental health is stigmatism in it and everything like that, which we are trying to break down stigmas of having mental health, and I think we're doing great work with that.
Yeah.
But there's still stigmas with junkies, or they talk about that.
Mm.
And, these people, and another thing I've learned is that it might only be a couple of mistakes. Now, people make mistakes.
Yeah.
And I would say
It's
that
so
people
easy to.
get hooked on drugs can
Yes.
make just a few mistakes. Yep. And go
So
down a little
interesting.
bit of the wrong path at the
Right.
wrong time. Maybe it was a mental health issue that then got them onto it to start with. And some people have had upbringings like me, were stable and everything like that, but they've gone down the wrong path because of something.
Yeah.
So I've got a lot of empathy for them, and I don't like people calling them junkies, because
Yes.
that takes away the person. There is a person
Right.
there. Now, yeah, it can be very difficult with a person that is addicted to drugs for sure, and the circle of people around them it's traumatic for them as well.
Yes.
And so, I'd say to people, just back off a little bit,
Yeah.
because all your stable upbringing that you had, you're lucky
Yes.
to have that. And some
Yeah.
people don't, and it has led them down the wrong path. So don't be judgmental on them.
Yeah.
It's just, a
Don't
way that
judge a
they've,
book by its cover.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's something that's triggered them, and they've found some solace in, some drug taking that has, it's helped them for a little while, that we all know, and that can be like alcohol or anything, which is the worst drug of all, that you can then just slowly cycle into
And spiral
and
out of
spiral out of
control, and then it
control.
becomes irreversible. And
Yeah,
but we're all humans behind that, aren't we? Like
Yeah.
it's just another person that happens to have fallen off the rails, or happens to have had an unfortunate circumstance in their lives, and unfortunately that was what they sort of resorted to
Yeah.
get by
and we
in
all
the end.
resort to something.
Yeah,
And there's plenty of times
absolutely.
I've resorted to alcohol for that
Yes,
too, mate,
yeah.
to, calm
Well,
my
COVID made me
nerves or
resort to
anything.
margaritas every Friday night for
Yeah.
about 2 years, I think.
Yeah,
yeah.
so I think people need to be a little bit less judgmental on those type of people.
Yes.
No
So
worries.
yeah, I think that's super interesting. But yeah, I agree with you. Junkies is a terrible term to be using to describe people or a person. Which leads me to the next question: what type of person would be the person that would thrive in this career? Or what? And then also on the flip side of that, who wouldn't thrive in this career?
That's a really good question, actually. So who wouldn't is probably, I don't know, a highly intelligent, highly critical, highly
Ah,
strung person,
right.
you know.
Unable to
Um,
deal into stressful situations, you mean, or
yeah,
pressure
pressures, maybe
situations?
situations and everything
Mm,
like that. And people talk about blood. We don't see all that much blood all the time either.
right.
There is a little bit of that
Accident
sometimes.
scenes, you don't see them
Yeah, they
in.
do. Yeah, you
Right.
definitely do. So you will see some things of bones and body parts
Oh
and things like
God,
that. Yeah,
that sounds bad enough.
I
Trevor.
don't know. I suppose, maybe, yeah, but you do see that definitely.
Yeah.
The person that's probably most,
Suited to
suited
this and would
for it,
thrive. Yeah.
people that are compassionate, people
Mm-hmm.
that do like to care
Mm-hmm.
for people, maybe people that are very social. You can be
Okay.
an introvert or an extrovert. I don't know if it really matters, because introverts can still be good
Right.
at it, because we do just follow, or we should be following a structured, clinical approach every
Mm-hmm.
time we go to every job.
Yep.
That's how the training should work.
Yep.
And so, an introvert or a practical person can then just go, yep, I can go through those
Yes.
steps. It's the person that, though, is adaptable to then go, okay, I've got these steps, but maybe I need to do this one, though, before I get
Yes.
onto that one. Those people that can be adaptable and,
Mm.
um, probably problem solve
Yeah.
definitely is a good one, with
Yes.
prioritizing at the right time as
Yeah.
well.
Is there an element of critical thinking as well, or is that just not necessarily? It's more, what's the most important? I mean, there's the social aspect,
Yeah.
which means that
The
you've got to
social
be
is
able
probably
to
the biggest.
to
Yep.
deal with that individual, help them calm down, maybe have a bit of a conversation or whatever to ease the situation, or
Yeah, I
the
find
panic.
the best thing is humour.
Oh,
So, my kids will disagree, but I think I've got a reasonably good sense of humour. But if you come into a
yeah.
situation and that you're relaxed, composed, and someone's there
Mm-hmm.
anxious and going, oh my God, I feel like I'm going to die, just say that.
Mm.
And you come in and then they see you and you're, relaxed about it. You'll ask them some questions, and it may be sometimes I even look for some point. Normally, it might be like their football team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you will then, they'll be selling you something about that, and you know that they're okay because they're talking to you or things like that. You will then use a little bit of humour to then relax them.
Yeah.
And it might be that I go, well, I'm not going to assess you because you barrack for, and then they'll go, oh, yeah, you
Or
laugh a little bit of
Collingwood.
it. Yeah. I wasn't going to say Collingwood because people go, oh, everyone says Collingwood all the time.
All right, St Kilda.
Yeah. And so
you
then they'll go, oh my God, he's making a joke about these things. He's relaxed. He's not
human.
very worried. Or he's not
right,
worried.
I see.
And so then they go, well, if he's not worried, then maybe I shouldn't be that
need
worried.
to be worried.
Then that will just start them to hopefully relax and things like that a little bit more. And so I've found that that's the best way to treat people because, as I said, those 19 jobs that they're talking to you, the best way is a little bit of humour at the start or whatever to get that relationship. And it is a relationship between the patient and myself when we're assessing and everything, to get that ball rolling, to get that trust, to get that confidence and do that. So someone that's able to do that is probably perfect for this job because a little bit of worldly experience through travelling, a little bit of humour.
Yep.
Don't take yourself seriously because I think sometimes that's what's portrayed in those ambulance shows is it's too serious it's not. Because most of the time it's not that serious and has a good fun and good times and is a social person.
Right.
Those things would be the best
All
qualities,
of those things
I think.
combined can make a really good paramedic on the job.
And they problem solve and prioritise is the other one. So.
Well, I think you've just helped the Ambulance Victoria up their metrics just by getting out there the requirements of the job, which is really helpful. Yeah. So if you were to, say, for example, if you were a young person, what might be your, sort of advice for those young people who haven't yet gone and seen the world? Is it do all those things first?
Well, this is. I think I've got a bit of experience in this because what happens now to get into the paramedics, you then do the 3-year degree. So you pay to do it now. So when I did it, the government paid for me to do it, right? But they can't do that now because I think when I joined, there might have been maybe 2,500 paramedics.
Yeah.
So they could just afford to.
You want the people that actually, sort of I guess. The ones that do the discretionary learning and the ones that want to be in the industry, is that what you're saying? Like, because it's self-funded?
Yeah, now it's because the government couldn't afford to put through the amount of paramedics that we have now.
Right.
Because obviously it costs them money for me to go to school and they're not getting any productivity out of me for 3 months because I'm just at school. I'm not doing anything to help them.
Yes.
So I definitely understand why the model has changed now to then you go and do the degree and then you apply after doing your degree and passing your degree, you apply for a job in ambulance services, and that can be in England, Tassie, South Australia, Victoria, wherever. And so what happens though is that straight out of high school, some do that, and then they'll get straight into the paramedic course, and then they've finished it, and by 21, 22, they go, yep, I'm right to go into the paramedics. And what's hard about that, one is they don't have that worldly experience of travel, which I think does, that adversity, that challenging things that happen while you're overseas in a foreign land and doing all that. That's my advice. You should go and do that. But it's just hard to then deal with people in what I was talking about before. So the people that are addicted to drugs and things like that, if you've only just come straight out of high school, straight into uni and then having to deal
without
with that,
the life experience.
Yeah, it's very difficult to do that. And I even had it difficulty at 25.
Right.
Oh, hang on, I was 27 when I joined, so even older.
Yes.
I'd already been through a fair bit of challenges and seen lots of things and everything like that, and I found it difficult. I can only assume that, at 22, it is very difficult to see it, deal with it, process it, and give really good care when you can't really understand it.
Because it then heavily relies on good mentors to fast track their experience. Would that be right to say?
100%, and that can help. A good clinical instructor, we call them, is vital in their first 12 months. They have a clinical instructor probably for about the first 5 or 6 months that they join graduates, and so you're certainly thrown into the deep end because you'll go to code ones and everything like that.
Right.
But you have someone that is quite senior with you to then help you out, and We sometimes have to take over jobs because you're just inexperienced, but that's just part of the nature. And so that's how then you learn from that inexperience. You learn from a job maybe not
Mm.
going as well and everything like that. But having a good CI and having someone facilitate good debriefs and good conversations
Yes.
afterwards is really important.
And so what's your role these days?
I'm a team manager these days.
What's a team manager get up to?
They manage about, I think there's 40 paramedics usually on a list at a branch. So I'm lucky enough recently to get Morty Alec. So I'm a team manager at Morty Alec branch.
Local.
It is local. That's why I wanted it, so I could
Yes.
ride to work.
Nice.
And so I still do 4 on, 4 off, and that's I should explain what major the rosters are too. But
Yes.
I do normally I'll do a day shift on the road, then I'll do like a day shift in the office, maybe an afternoon shift in the office, or
love
in the
that.
office for a couple of days.
Yep.
And then I'll do a night shift. So
What a
I do
great variety.
Yeah, and that's why for longevity, that's what's helped me a lot. You
I
know?
see.
Because that's another thing about being a paramedic. You know, after say even 10 years of doing on road,
Yes.
it can get
Take a toll
tough.
on you.
Yeah, and that's
Right.
physically on your body, mentally as well. But then there's other roles certainly within ambulance that are available. There's
Yes.
emergency manage or EMR,
Okay.
like, and that's dealing with so the fireys do
Yep.
EMR. So what happens if a cardiac arrest comes through?
Yep.
And this is because fireys are normally at their station more so than what paramedics are.
Yes.
They are an essential service, but they don't work all the time.
Right.
So if you want to
'cause
become
there's not
there's
houses
not
burning
fire-
every
thank
day.
goodness there's not fires.
Yes.
Unlike those 911 American shows, it's not like that either.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah, because they wouldn't be very good at it either, going out to jobs like that every day.
Yes.
So they are at a station, I should call it,
Yes.
a little bit more often than us, and they might be closer to a cardiac arrest, and they can do exactly what we
Oh, I
do
see.
in the first few minutes of a
Yes.
cardiac arrest. And that's why
Ah.
Victorians should be very happy, because a fire truck might turn up rather than an ambulance.
Wow.
But they will then put the defibrillator on just
That's
like we
so
will.
good.
They'll do CPR like we would.
Yes.
And they do, the first 5 minutes is exactly the same as what we would do. The fireys
Yes.
do it as well. And they
So-
do a great job at it.
That's so good. So we're effectively leveraging one another
Yeah.
to make good use of those services and be more available to the wider public, which is fantastic.
Yeah. It is very good.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing about what the government spends our money on,
Oh,
is
I'd love
actually
to know
having that
that.
service in throughout even rural Victoria now too,
I see.
to then make sure that we get to the critically unwell people as soon as we can and get that defibrillator on that I was
Yes.
talking about.
And so do you have people under you? You said you're a team manager?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I manage about 40 paramedics, I think there is.
Wow.
Yeah. So that can range from rosters, annual leave,
wow.
flexible working arrangements and things
Yes.
like that.
And their development too? Does it
And their development, their clinical development.
managing their I see.
Their well-being is
Yes.
probably my main job. As a manager, I'm just meant to make them happy and healthy to come to work. That is my only
Yes.
role, I
Yes.
find.
And are you having to do things like one-on-one conversations and
Yeah,
things like
well,
that?
I think that's really important. Like
Yeah.
this, getting to know someone, and that again, how I manage is just through conversations and socially. So
yes.
you'll pick something that a paramedic enjoys outside of work is how I'd mainly do it. So there was an instance where this paramedic loved horse riding,
Oh,
and did equestrian events, right?
wow.
Now, obviously, being a paramedic, you work on the weekends, you work on Christmas,
Yeah.
you work on New Year's
So
Eve.
there's a bit of flexibility that you've got to afford people to some
Well,
degree,
yeah,
or maybe
you realise that
work around the rosters.
people have got to
yeah.
have a life outside of work, and it's
Yeah.
important. So I think she was working on a Saturday, say,
Mm.
and she really needed that day off because
Mm-hmm.
she wanted to do this equestrian event, and that's like, she deserved. And you'll go and look at certain things to make sure she's turning up to work on time and things like that. She's putting in,
Yeah.
is how I'd say.
Of course.
And then you'll do that for her. You'll get her that day off so that she can have that, because that's important to her.
I love that because you don't actually think about whether paramedics get are accommodated in that way to ensure workplace flexibility, because obviously in a sort of an office environment it might be a little bit easier. They can work from home and
Yeah.
they might have the weekends off already, but in your field that can also be the case to a degree. Obviously you need to be someone you can't be giving it to somebody who's taking the piss out of the employer, right? They're
Yeah.
not, sort of that low performing, underperforming employee that you're willy nilly handing out the flexibility and accommodating for.
Yeah.
It's obviously the people that are not only, sort of great for the organization, that you give them that flexibility because they've worked, you know what I mean? Like they've worked their way up to be able to sort of
Yeah.
have the opportunities to be able to do the things that you, also on the other side is the culture that you foster in the organization to ensure that people are living a full life, right? Am I
Yeah.
right in saying that?
Culture is everything, if you like, I feel. And so we are having a little bit of a culture war, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say too much, but we're having a culture war in Ambulance Victoria at the moment. Yeah, there was difficulties with COVID. There was difficulties with a recent EBA and things like that.
Yes.
And so, because as I went back when I first started, we'd get in half an hour earlier to help each other out. And so we would be there for each other.
Yeah.
What I find now is that is not always the case. That
Right.
we're thinking about ourselves as individuals when, hang on, we should be thinking of paramedics
Yes.
overall.
Yes.
So I try to foster that, and that can be by example as well, is that we look after ourselves for sure,
Yes.
as a group, not just ourselves individually.
Yeah.
And so, I'd like to try and foster that at Morty Alec if I could, to just say, here, we're all in this together. Let's help each other out. And because it is about, like, Ambulance Victoria is trying to improve things for sure, and trying to improve, workplace experiences for paramedics. But it is a balancing act. So we as paramedics are employed to make sure that we do our job reasonably well in a reasonably expedient time too.
Of
And I think
course.
that's all right to ask for you to do that.
Yes.
So you will try and make an effort to be clear, to respond to the community, because that's what we are essentially for, is to be available,
That's right.
to respond to the community when they are in crisis.
Absolutely.
So, some paramedics do definitely take the piss of that.
Right.
And so I think that we need to have another little reshift or a focus and go, hang on, we're paid pretty well. And that's why I find sometimes those shows over glorify what paramedics do and everything like that. So we are just humble kind of public, what do we call them? Public
Servants.
servants. That's exactly what I was trying to say. Public servants. I'd say glorified public servants, but we are there just simply to do a job. We're paid very well to do
Absolutely.
it, so we should be out there
And
to
Trev,
respond.
that's no different to every other employer, right? You've got to, and it's striking the right balance because, well, number one, you're employed by that employer, and you've got to, that's where your obligation is, and then secondly, there is yourself as well. So it's a bit of a balancing act, I think, and it's no different in any other organization.
No. But then I suppose the paramedic that has been on the road for 8 years would probably go, yeah, but he's a manager. He gets 2 days
Right.
off a week,
Oh,
right? In the
oh.
office. So it is different. And I
Yeah.
know that I'm coming from that end and everything like
Yes.
that.
Completely
But
understand.
it's-
It's all
yeah.
contextual, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
very much so.
Okay, so you're now over 20 years into your career. Do you have any plans for anything beyond that, or is this it for you? Like you're going to stick with ambulance with as a paramedic or a team manager? You're
Yeah,
loving.
I'm-
Are you in your sweet spot right now?
I am. I'm
Yeah.
very, very fortunate and very, very lucky to have the position I have. And I think I did some hard work to get there. I definitely did. But I'm very, very fortunate to
Yes.
have a job, and it is for life, right?
Yes.
We get paid well. It's good super, and it's just the lifestyle that it gives me,
Great
the annual
people.
leave that it gives me,
Yeah.
the social things that it gives me.
Amazing.
And one reason I should probably say, one reason to get into paramedicine is you get instant gratification from, or instant feedback from the patient normally when you've done a good job. They will
Yes.
go, mate, you've been awesome today. Thanks very much for that.
Yes.
Right? So you take that on and you go, geez, that makes me feel good. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Whereas lots of people in this world, right, don't, and this is what Candy will tell
You could
me.
be working 6 months and
she
before
works
you
in
got
IT,
any good feedback.
and no one goes and tells her straight away, that was a great job, Candy. Thanks
it's-
very much for doing that.
Absolutely. It's immediate feedback.
It is.
On your work.
Yeah.
From the
And
people
most
that
of
you're
the time
doing it
it's
for.
positive though too, right? You
Right.
know, most of the time, and that's what paramedics do. They will come in and they will instantly relieve a situation that's people don't really know what to do, and they just go, all right, we're just going to leave it up to you to then take over this situation and work it out for us.
Yes.
And they're so thankful that you come in and do that. Then they just go, oh, that's awesome. Thanks very much. And when you don't get that in a job, you know, that instant gratification or whatever, you'll notice it.
Yes.
But we get it, and it just fills your cup, and you're just like,
Oh, I love that.
you know, I am good. This is a good job. I'm doing something that changes someone's life. You definitely have that part, what they talk about in those shows. You definitely have it.
Yes.
And that's so giving to your spirit, to your emotions, to everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. And I think that's such an important thing in life, is to be able to get that instant, immediate feedback, because then it sort of rewards you, doesn't it? To sort of keep going and and all of the, you know what surprises me? The job variety, the variety in your work and everything that just, I think it's, you know, what it gives you is not just a job. It gives you just so much more than that, is what you've expressed. And definitely an industry or a field that you recommend for anyone who has those qualities that you set out to step into.
It's an awesome job, and there's some people that have left it hasn't been for them. I've been fortunate enough that it has been really good for me. It is a great vocation to do. It's you were talking about learning. It is continuously learning as well.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
We talk about, but physically, it can be demanding physically. So you've got to look at your manual handling. I'm a very big advocate of manual handling and handling people properly. And because people come in and say, oh, aren't you just going to lift them up? And we'll go, no. Well, I might do my back, you know, if I just lift these people up. So you do have expectations about people, you know, of general public or bystanders thinking you're just going to pick people up. And they go, no, we used to, but we don't do that anymore.
Right, understand.
We've got to be much more careful about our bodies and everything like that, because workplace injuries are then horrendous as well, mate, because they are, you know, a career ending.
Yes.
Yeah. So there are challenges being a paramedic for sure.
Yeah, you don't want to be pulling out any joints while you're at doing the thing that's most important.
And there's lots of people that get injured, and that can be physically or mentally as well.
Yes,
So it is not for everybody in saying that as well.
Absolutely. Can it be for The Rock?
Hey?
The Rock.
Oh, that's hilarious, because my kids laugh because I go, oh, The Rock's going to save us again when they turn a movie on, because, you know, it'd be actually good to see him when he fails, right? And then you go, see, even The Rock fails. In a movie, he's got to do a movie where he fails and completely fails.
So that way he doesn't
come back
always
as a
get
hero.
referenced.
Yeah, so then you know, you go, look, even The Rock fails.
He has to do those movies. That'll solve all the problems of the world for men.
Yeah.
And that leads me, I've got a couple of questions left for you, Trev.
No
You've been so
worries.
generous with your time here. What do you do to unwind these days?
I play golf. We were talking about that. Yeah, I play golf. And so what's great about golf is that we have about 50 or 60 paramedics on the peninsula.
I love that.
They're a social group. We come together. So we play a course. A particular course. There's two guys that run it that are awesome people, and they say, this is the course we're playing this month. We all have handicaps. We all play that course at different times of the month, but sometimes we'll come together and play, and you play with different paramedics then too.
Yes.
So it's awesome socially, and I love the challenge of it.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult sport.
Yes.
I have a lot of admiration for professional golfers.
I know.
They're amazing.
Yes, I know. I was telling you I can barely get the ball off the fairway sometimes. Understanding which iron to use is the hardest one for me, I think. I tend to go to my 5-iron or 6-iron. I think they're probably the most reliable.
Yeah.
It depends on where you are, though, doesn't it? Isn't it?
It's like anything, mate. It's practice. And it's because, you know, you then, if you practice enough, you'll know how far you hit your irons.
Oh, yes.
You know, that's when you get to a point. And that's probably where I am at the moment. I kind of got an idea.
Yeah.
But sometimes I go that way or that way. But I kind of get to know about how far I'm hitting them.
Yes. My favorite is the driving.
Oh, yeah.
Teeing off is probably the best thing I could do. And then the rest of that is up to chance. So you're golfing. I know you do a bit of surfing as well. Do you do much of that anymore?
I probably ride my bike a little bit more or run as well.
Yeah.
I love exercise, and what's built in now is I have to do it in the morning. So it's kind of built in that you just got to get up, got to do it,
So
get it done.
cool.
But that's about intrinsically rewarding yourself and feeling better anyway because you've just done it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's how I kind of unwind, I
I
think.
love that. And I think you mentioned you were a bit of a musician in university days. Do you touch any instruments these days?
I do. I play the drums as a hobby, is what I would call
Ah.
it. I'm not very good, but I'm just trying to be like a Dave Grohl clone. So whatever Dave Grohl plays, I try and
Right,
mimic
you
that,
mimic
and I
that.
can't do them all. He's actually quite I should say he's a very unique drummer. He's a fantastic drummer, but he's not very complex. So he's actually kind of attainable. There's some other drummers that are just like unattainable, like
Yeah.
Tools, Danny Carey.
Right.
But I love that Dave's attainable, and I'm trying to get there,
Yes.
but I don't do it enough to get there.
Yes. You know, I love a good Phil Collins song that has the drums in it.
Do you?
You can't go past the Easy Love. Forgive my poor singing, but that's
I do like the
gotta get-
Cadbury ad that had the gorilla that had that classic drum intro that he did.
Yes, I love that. Okay, so that's what you do to unwind. I think that's super insightful. I do have one last question for you, Trev, to end the show here, the episode. I know you talked a lot about all the things you've got to have. So, you know, to be a paramedic, to be a good person in life, right? To growing from a young man to, you know, one that is good patriarch to society, I think. And there was so much that you shared in the episode. I'm going to ask you, because this show is called Thirstee Coconut.
Yeah.
If a coconut were success, what are the 3 things that you would pick out of all the insightful shares during this episode that would crack that coconut open for success?
Very good question. So 3 things.
Outer layer, inner layer, juice.
All right. The outer layer, I think, is hard work, and I am
Okay.
definitely a believer in hard work.
Yeah.
So that hard work is the shell, I suppose, and it's got to encompass everything. The next bit of the flesh is the preparation, and I think preparing is
Yeah.
a really important thing.
You talked a lot about that.
For a lot, yeah. And that can be even just in general life too, preparing. But that's, I think, a practical part of me of having routines or having systems in place. I need to be sometimes a bit more flexible with those. And
Yes. So work in progress.
that is a work in progress. And the juice will be the juice is the rewards that comes from the hard work and the preparation. You need to recognize the rewards.
Yes.
You need to intrinsically, even if no one else says it, but intrinsically tell yourself that you've done awesome, that you are awesome, but not too much, because that then gets you into the ego that I was talking about.
Of
But you
course.
need to reward yourself for your hard work and your preparation.
Yes.
And at the same time with that, though, is being humble about it, I think.
Yes. So wrapped around in humility and
humility is
humble.
really, really important, because I find even with social media and everything like that, people
Yes.
overstate their worth, their value and everything like that. Just be a good person and be humble about it.
Yes, I always tend to say, along with humility and humble and all the great things you've just said, is try to maintain a life of discipline and consistency, right? Yeah, super important.
Routine is good in that respect.
Yes.
But then, it can be changed. It can be flexible. You need to be flexible as
Yes.
well, though.
Yes, and I know you talked about EQ and IQ in amongst all of that. I think in the humility part, right, there's that little bit of EQ and IQ balancing with the humility side of things. But those 3 tips are just incredible. I want to say thank you so much for sharing so many insights about your life and obviously your work. And I know that all the Thirstee Coconuts that are watching and listening, will be watching and listening, are just going to take away so much from this conversation, whether it be where they are today, where they want to be tomorrow, or it might just be a correction in life.
Or going to a nudist beach.
Thank you so much for joining
It's
me.
lovely. Thanks very much for having me. I really enjoyed it. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, Trev.
Thank you.